Hello there, fellow pretentious fiends, and today I want to take a bit of time to talk about low-budget films and what makes a good one. And if you were asking yourself, is he starting off on this ridiculous pose simply to show off these fantastic pants? The answer is of course. So I'm a firm believer that a big budget does not immediately make a film better. I think we can all agree on that. Yes, you can get some fantastic actors, yes, you can get some fantastic graphics, but at the core of every good film is a great idea. When it comes to low budget films, and I mean low, the idea has to be solid from the get-go. So in a world where you have $380 million spectacles like Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, how can a micro-budget movie even bother to compete? But today I want to talk about 5 really excellent examples of what you can do with the bare minimum. And I'm talking the bare fucking minimum. Now, if you're lining up to make a film and your budget is under $10 million, that is classified a low budget film. Films like Lost in Translation, which they made for I believe around $4.5 million. But that is way too rich for today's taste. So let's drop the budget down. Say you want to make a film for $1 million, which means that your entire budget is going to be only half that of the catering from a movie like The Green Lantern. But even that's a bit too spicy on today's wallet. We're gonna drop it down. Way down. We're gonna be looking at films that cost under $100,000, which in film term is nothing. So down at this cost for a film, your story writing and your idea is stripped way back to its core, and that has to shine. That has to be the strongest thing overall. Because even at the several $1 million mark, you can look at doing really great location shoots, grab a few reasonable named actors that will add some weight to it. But when you're on a complete and utter shoestring, the most important thing that's going to have to shine through is the artist you are. So most of the films on today's list are auteur films. And so to quickly explain that, that's basically films that have been made from a singular person, one person's vision. Think people like a Quentin Tarantino. Someone who writes, directs, edits. Now, to get away with a fantastic micro-budget film, I do think that auteur films tend to be more successful. They tend to get away with it more. Because you have someone with a singular vision and not have 50 different egos to contend with. This is also going to allow the creator of the film to set boundaries within that world from the start. I think the key idea with all forms of art is to take an idea from a creator or artist's mind and translate that into an experience that the viewer or listener can enjoy and analyze and draw something from. It's kind of like telepathy. So enough of this art wank ranting from me. Let's go have a look at some killer micro-budget films. So I'm going to start this list off with a pretty obvious one. Clerks. Now, Clerks is a fantastic example of a low-budget film, because you know what doesn't cost a fucking cent? Good dialogue and good character interaction. The comedy within this movie is human and timeless. Its main focus is on really awkward, oddly charming interactions between these kind of barely exaggerated characters.
I'm telling you, it wasn't my fault.
You knocked the casket over, for Christ's sake!
I was just leaning on it. It was an accident.
Like someone knocks a casket over on purpose?
Not a casket fell over. Big deal.
Her fucking body fell out!
Let's put her back in it. It's not like it matters if she breaks something.
The story is based around 2 retail workers who have radically different attitudes to the banality of their existence. And it has these odd echoes of Dante's Inferno, showing a kind of spiraling, hell-like monotony. Writer and director Kevin Smith did a brilliant job of working within the minute $28,000 budget for this film. Even the fact that they went to save money by shooting on black and white film adds to this bizarre, eerie limbo post-death feel to it, adding to that Dante's Inferno allegory. And furthermore, if you know anything about this film and how it was originally meant to end, the eeriness that the black and white adds to it is fantastic and dark, and it just takes the comedy from the whole rest of the movie and turns it on its head. Now, the mother of all success stories when it comes to low-budget films has to be the Blair Witch Project. It was filmed for $60,000 and brought in the filthy huge amount of $250 million at the box office. That is quite literally one of the best financial investments of all time. But money isn't everything. Kind of is, because we live in a fucking capitalist hellscape. Found footage can be extremely forgiving on a low budget film because now you don't have to spend hours finding a setup. You don't have to worry too much about the quality of the camera. You don't have to worry too much about the quality of the shot. When things are framed in a certain light, you have a certain expectation. Whereas with found footage films, we kind of tie it to home videos, and we tie it to the experience of looking at old videos even on our cell phone. And so our expectations not only are lowered, but kind of just destroyed. We just kind of accept it as what it is. Now obviously I'm sure that Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez, who wrote, directed and edited the Blair Witch Project, had a pretty solid idea for the tone from the start. They found such a realistic and effective way to achieve their goals. And because you know what doesn't cost a fucking cent? Great suspense. This film uses Job-like patience to create an atmosphere. And so they use that. They use empty space fantastically. Their marketing campaign, they would distribute missing persons leaflets. They had message boards set up dedicated to finding these people. And all of this work in the real world ended up in the audience already being on edge by the time they walked into the cinema. And this truly goes to show that no film can exist in a vacuum. We do go into a film with our preconceptions, and those preconceptions are always going to inform what we think of the film.
I'm scared to close my eyes.
Now, do y'all remember Desperado? Antonio Banderas' guitar case full of guns? That film was a sequel to a bombastic micro budget action film called El Mariachi. They filmed this for just shy of $8,000. That is a Christmas miracle unto itself. El Mariachi is just cool. It's got a cool attitude, it's got cool action. You know, I'm a guitarist, so if I see this film about a young traveling troubadour going around getting into gunfights with a guitar case full of guns, I'm gonna think it's cool. Robert Rodriguez managed to translate the idea of action without spending pretty much a dime. Film being very expensive, he would never do reshoots. If you were going through a scene and you screwed up, instead of going back and redoing the scene, they would literally pick a new camera angle and go exactly from where the screw up happened. Rodriguez did this purposefully. It gave the look of multiple cameras. It adds to the depth, of the scene, to the background. So keeping in theme with this, he used a similar little hack during back and forth dialogue, in which in between each person's line, he would zoom into their face and have a different angle. So if you're an aspiring filmmaker and you watch this film, one of the things to really take away from it is how to creatively use one camera. Now, the idea of a low-budget film dealing with time travel is a risky one, because when you think time travel films, you think Interstellar, Back to the Future. If you have a refined taste, you think of Sharknado 6. It's about time. But Primer takes an entirely different approach. The tone of this movie is painfully realistic. Primer focuses instead on how to explain time travel in a real-world way. This movie also doesn't dumb it down. This film was made by a software engineer and someone who has obviously put a lot of thought into how this could be an actual applicable science. And I like that. This film actually respects the audience enough to pay attention and treats them like intelligent adults. And during the second half of this film, we get into some really interesting play with timeline and causal loop and paradoxes. And this is where Primer's bread and butter is. It's an exercise in playing with timeline and storytelling. Even who is who and where goes what and when is why is highly debated on the internet. They made this film for $7,000? That is literally the price of a new iMac Pro. First-time filmmaker Shane Carruth, who wrote, directed, produced, edited, and even did the music too, really delves into the idea of what a linear story can be. And the response and praise of this film really shows us that there's a lot of people out there who want that kind of experience. They want to be engaged actively from this film. Creep.
Hi!
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you.
I'm assuming you're Aaron.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to actually tell you too much about this film because I just highly recommend you go watch it. This film is simply only based around two characters, Aaron and Joseph. Now, Aaron responds to a personal ad looking for a videographer to come and film the life of the extremely fucking strange Joseph for the next couple of days. Now, that might sound very banal to a lot of people, but I beg you, absolutely beg you to go watch this film. This film can be really unsettling, but at the same time, it yields a lot of what the fuck type laughs with this really dark and awkward, invasive comedy. It's constantly on this verge of being both really intimidating and really fucking hilarious. So Creep was produced by Mark Duplass and was directed by Patrick Bryce. Of course, the film was written by Mark Duplass Patrick Bryce. And of course, the two stars of the film are Mark Duplass and Patrick Bryce. Now, this is another found footage film on this list, and just like Blair Witch Project, it uses that element perfectly. It's so easily weaved into the film, and at no stage does the found footage angle feel like a burden. So this film only has two real characters and two actors. And so you mix that with the fact that it's a found footage film, and with the fact that the two actors are the producer and director, and both of them are the writers. And all of a sudden you have this ridiculously mobile, ridiculously creative, fast-moving film set. I could not find exactly how much it did cost to make this film, but I put it on this list because this is the exact type of film a talented and thoughtful filmmaker could make on a shoestring of a budget. And so I really see that the thing to take away from all these films is that the best investment you could ever do is to hone your craft and hone your ability to work an idea. At the core of every good movie is a great idea. It has to be, otherwise it's kind of fluff, and we can enjoy that fluff and that will be fun and it will be a spectacle, but the idea at its core has to be able to shine through regardless of budget. Anyway, everyone, that's my little list for top 5 movies under $100,000. Oh, and now comes the time where I have to kiss the audience's ass and ask them to like, share, and subscribe. Oh, smash the little bell so you can get notifications. Feel dirty. Just in general, not from acting like a used car salesman asking for online validation. Just all the time. It's a nightmare up in here. You don't want to know.